And now we're going to turn it over to one of the newest members of the Wisconsin chapter, Jerry Pyfer. Are you ready, Jerry? Jerry is
Well,
the president. Yeah, I was just going to introduce you as they say that you're the president of the NWI chapter, Northwest Illinois chapter of the NRHS. We're happy that you're here with us. And we are going to be doing a joint meeting on Saturday, the 8th of May, with a presentation featuring material from John Jebko, the Godfather. Do you have anything to say about that, Jerry?
I know we've, in the NWI chapter, John was presented every January's presentation at our chapter meetings. And it's kind of odd that this year will be the first year that we did not have a John Jebko presentation. But man, when he's there and that he's probably our biggest draw at our meetings. And when we get done in our Founders Hall at the church, we have to mop up the drool.
How about that? All right. Well, let's get ready to drool here for your presentation then.
All right. Let's see if we can remember how this goes. I'm Jerry Pyfer. I was a Milwaukee Road trainman from September of 71 to November of 78 when I jumped from the sinking ship to Illinois Central Gulf out of Freeport, Illinois. And fortunately, 4 years later, that one bellied up. This is a Mike Wysong photo of me snagging train orders at Rochelle. So I became a mailman, retired out of there 30 years later from that. So that's the history. Mike invited me to present a show, 15-minute show to the Wisconsin chapter NRHS. So I figured what better than to go with the some Wisconsin short lines beyond the Cheddar Curtain. These are primarily short lines that came into existence because of deregulation in the early 1980s as Class 1 railroads started selling off their less profitable lines. In 1980, the Central Wisconsin and the Wisconsin Western railroads were developed around Janesville, Wisconsin, Madison, Wisconsin, going south on the Illinois Central's Madison branch down to Freeport. The two lines were closely tied together and would eventually become one with the formation of the Chicago, Madison, and Northern in 1982. Janesville would be their center of operation. They would also work the southwestern main line from Bardwell east to Elkhorn, Wisconsin. They also picked up the Swiss Colony intermodal traffic during the holiday rush. I hear they'd be loading semi-trailers onto the flat cars in Monroe. This traffic ran south out of Monroe down to the Illinois Central, where the IC would then, ICG, I should say, would take it east or west. They almost got to the point where they had a solid train of Topsy cars. This would change in the later 1980s when the Wisconsin Calumet would take over this Chicago, Madison, and Northern and get the outlet east out of Janesville through Bardwell, round out, and into Chicago. And after that, then the IC branch line lost favor and would eventually be terminated. It was January of 1989 when some of the bigger changes were happening with the changing the uniforms on the F units. The 106 was a Milwaukee Road 117C and the 901 was a Rio Grande 5644. I happened to walk through the door, saw what was going on, and I asked this fellow if I could photograph the units. He said, "Yeah, it's okay, but I need you to keep it under wraps because they were going to reveal the chocolate brown units." The fellow I was talking to was Glenn Monhart, owner of the units. The wicket working in the Elkhorn again. They would get a mixture of least used power, all first generation. The Sioux line would visit the Wisconsin and Calumet up at Janesville, bringing up interchange traffic. And one of their road freights going west at Walworth. The Fox River Valley Railroad came about in 1988, was owned by ITEL. They would pick up the lines that the Northwestern was spinning off at the time. The ITEL also owned the Green Bay Western Railroad. This would be at Oshkosh, powering up with GP30s to begin with. July 1980 was the birth of the Wisconsin and Southern. This would be a Horicon. As I arrived and talked to them and told them what I wanted to do, they say, "Yeah, don't, just be safe out there." So as I visited the old round engine house there, which I worked out of when I was working on the Horicon Patrol for a while back in 72, caught them repainting the 512. They had already repainted two of the Milwaukee Road SD, one SD9, one SD7, into an attractive green and black scheme. I went east, found the one switcher out at Mayville, doing work on the branch. Headed back to Horicon to catch him returning with loads of sand. Also caught a guy coming back from Oshkosh and Marcus Ant. They would tie the units together, making up the train for Milwaukee. Once everything was together at the Horicon Depot, they would head east. Wisconsin Southern, the Southern would change their paint scheme. Here again, working the the old Southwestern main line here at Darien. The Lake States would become a spinoff on account of the Sioux line merging with the Milwaukee Road. It was decreed that the Sioux line had to divest itself of a railroad to avoid being a monopoly, as it were. So they spun off the original Sioux line to become the Lake States Railroad. At sometimes you would have to get a scorecard to know who the players were. This was in Milwaukee, southbound. It's actually a Lake States train operating on Milwaukee Road trackage south to Chicago, Bensonville. Up around Oshkosh again, they would pick up some of the older power that the Sioux line no longer wanted. You could find some nice mix of power with their leased Conrail units, which were quite plentiful for a while. Mix of Milwaukee and Sioux line power. Wisconsin Central came out of the Lake States. They again would pick up secondhand power to do their work. Coming down the street trackage in Oshkosh, they would find a lot of favor in the SD 45s, both from the Burlington Northern, Santa Fe, and the Norfolk and Western, or Norfolk Southern. And they painted up into a rather attractive paint scheme. I always like going after my house number. It's interesting to see what type of locomotives it'll show up on. These short line railroads are not afraid of civilians. They would run quite a number of passenger excursions back in the day. This would be on the Wisconsin and Calumet, running with Glenn Monhart's E3. These would be trips run between Monroe and Madison. Steam was not a stranger on these lines either. This would be a trip in December of '88 on the old Mineral Point branch between Broadhead and Monroe. All of these were shot in Kodachrome. I thought it'd be kind of neat to backdate it a little bit, take out the color and give a little more historical look. Winter always made the steam show up real nice. The Frisco 482 steam locomotive made an appearance on the Wisconsin Central. Milwaukee Road 261 made its guest appearance once in a while. Here, as you can see, when the Wisconsin Central bought out the Fox River Valley, they also got the Green Bay Western along in the deal. Charging up Byron Hill. Sioux Line got onto its own rails again with the 1003, making several trips for various reasons. This would be around Waukesha. They would run trips out of Burlington, Wisconsin for the chocolate festivals there, for Nestle's chocolate plant. As a Southwestern brakeman, we would switch to Nestle's chocolate plant. That was the sweetest smelling job we worked. Wisconsin Calumet would run its passenger trains. In fact, regular passenger excursions, they'd run it west out of Walworth, west to about boy, you know, it's escaping me as far as west they went, but they would make a turn. They had an F unit on each end. Wisconsin's and Southern excursions would include their E units. This would be actually the head end of a circus train. They made one trip with a circus train from Bardwell down to Delavan to actually to Elkhorn to give people a view of the circus train that wouldn't normally get it in Wisconsin. 1003 got some circus train duty as well. So that's the end of the Wisconsin short lines. But if I may take a couple of minutes here to make a shameless plug for a book that I wrote. This is my recollections of working the Southwestern on the Milwaukee Road. In this book, we covered all of the patrols between Milwaukee and Savannah, Janesville and Oglesby. We covered all of the switch engines as I worked them. Also got the through freights between Milwaukee and Savannah. Covered the coal train activity and the lad line as well. So I'm offering this book right now for $40, $5 for shipping and handling. And you can go to my email address there to place your order if you wish. I don't take plastic, so checks will work just fine if you're interested. So that's all I got. Thank you for listening, and it's now up to you guys to finish this out.
Well, thank you, Jerry.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you joining us tonight. And anybody have any? I'm sure there must be some questions for Jerry.
Good evening, Jerry. Steve McCarthy. I got one question. Did you know Sherman?
Bobby Sherman?
Yeah, I think so. Tim Sherman was his kid, which I worked with a lot of my career.
Yeah, I worked with Bobby Sherman, usually on the Sturtevant Patrol or the Racine switch engine. One Bobby story I have is we were in the Sturtevant Depot, and Bobby was the conductor, and the assistant superintendent walked in, and he wanted to see our watches. Bobby had his kid's Mickey Mouse watch on, which didn't go over very well. That's the kind of guy Bobby was, though.
I heard that story, actually. Thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jerry. Anything else for Jerry? All right. So again, I should mention, if you have not joined the Wisconsin chapter of the NRHS, now would be a great time to do so. It's very simple. Just go to www.nrhswis.org, click the join button, and it's instantaneous. We appreciate those who have joined within the last couple of months of us doing these virtual events. And thank you for the vote of confidence and your membership. Very simple to do. Otherwise, you could just send us a check. You'll find us, find all the information right at the website. And coming up on March the 5th, our regular March program will be presented by Ed Kohler of New York, who will be doing a presentation on the railroads of Otto Mears. Some Colorado short lines, Colorado narrow gauge, and with a side trip to Maryland as well. So that's a little interesting. Then in April, Bob Gallegos, I think saw Bob check in earlier this evening. Bob Gallegos has spent the last several months in the pandemic scanning 25,000 slides, and he's going to present more than 100 of them for you on at our April meeting. You'll find all that information on our website.